welcome to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, your host for this program that's all about the world of sports in Vermont and beyond. I'm on the set today with Nathaniel Wilson and Brian Stevenson, and we're joined in the control room by Dave Rice, Kyle Ambusk, Mike Dunn, Joey Palumbo, and Karen Anderson. You know, this is our debut show, folks, and we chose the name The Sports Rapport for a reason. It's intentional because we want to establish a rapport with you. We want to find out what you love about sports, whether it's played here in Vermont or elsewhere, to explore the love of sports that drives competition, play, and participation in all kinds of athletic endeavors.
Yeah, and Mitch, one of the things we thought would be so cool as a way for the audience to kind of get to know us, but then hopefully for us to get to know our audience as well, was to talk about our favorite Vermont sports moments of all time. So why don't you kick us off, Mitch?
I'm going to do that, Nathaniel, but I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I've got a couple. I can't choose just one. I'm going to start with the macro. One of my favorite moments in Vermont sports history was in 2005 when the UVM men's basketball team went to the NCAA March Madness tournament as the 14 seed. They were going up against mighty Syracuse, the number 4 seed at the time. They beat them in overtime. I still remember the shot that TJ Sorrentine took, deep three ball that put the game away. Incredible moment. It was so thrilling to see. But for the micro, though, I got to go with seeing my daughter's South Burlington Wolves win the state POM championship dance competition 3 years in a row, hopefully a fourth one this year. Go Wolves.
I think for mine, it's a more recent one. I've been in Vermont about 2.5 years myself, Mitch. What do the words, the miracle at Lusitano, mean to you?
Okay, that's got to be Vermont Green FC, right?
It is. You know I'm going to come with the Vermont Green FC. So let me take you guys back. July 11th, last summer, Vermont Green, they were undefeated at that point. It was either their last regular season game or one of their last few at the end, but I think it was their last one. They were undefeated to that point. They needed to tie or win the game against the Western Mass Pioneers in order to clinch the division. They were down 2-0 as the game was winding down. I was at home watching. Not the best showing from the boys in green, but they turned it around as soon as stoppage time came through, and they were able to score 2 goals, including an absolute cracker from Owen O'Malley in the 99th minute that they were able to tie the game and win the division.
The question I have for you, though, Nathaniel, is in those moments where they were into extra time, still down 2-0, did you still believe?
Listen, they had been coming back all year. It was UVM soccer was doing the same thing. The men's soccer team the year before they won the championship. The comeback energy, I was a believer.
Absolutely unreal what's happened in soccer here in Vermont. And, you know, we want to hear more from you, too. Let us know your favorite Vermont sports moments in the chat or at sports@vermontpublic.org. And speaking of the chat, we do want to hear from those of you watching live on YouTube. If you've got questions or comments, do let us know. We'll do our best to answer them. And for those of you listening via radio or podcast, we encourage you, check out our live stream each Monday at 2 p.m. on the Sports Rapport YouTube channel. You can also share your questions, comments, and voice memos at sports@vermontpublic.org. Now, today on the show, we'll be joined by Peggy Shin, a Vermont-based freelance writer and Olympics reporter. If you want to hear more about what's happening in Vermont sports, you're in the right place. It's time for the High Five. It's a segment where we take a look at 5 of the biggest stories in Vermont sports from the last week. UVM women's basketball still undefeated at home this season. And you know what? The Catamounts are pretty good on the road, too. They're 19-5 overall. Their latest win, they beat the New Jersey Institute of Technology Saturday 63-61 when Nicola Prieto won it at the buzzer. Prieto also double-doubled in this one, had 26 points and 10 rebounds in the win. UVM will test that home unbeaten streak Thursday against the University of Maine.
And Vermont Green FC is officially expanding into the women's game in 2026. There will be a Northeast Division in the USLW. Vermont Green joins Hartford Athletic, AC Connecticut, New England Mutiny, and the Hudson Valley Crusaders, and they are set to kick off play in May of this year.
Ellie St. Pierre sets a 2026 indoor record for the 3,000 meters. It was late last month when she ran 8 minutes, 26.54 seconds, making it the fifth fastest time in indoor track history. Oh, and by the way, that was just 8 months after giving birth to her second child.
And the nation's leading Division III men's basketball scorer resides in Vermont. Wesley McIntyre, who is a junior at Vermont State University at Linden, is averaging 26.9 points per game this season. And while Linden is just 7-13 on the year, it is safe to say that McIntyre is hooping.
The newest slate of Vermont Sports Hall of Famers were recently announced. They were headlined by Stephen Forrest, who becomes the first ever wrestler to enter the Vermont Sports Hall of Fame. He's from Bennington. He also wrestled for the U.S. national team. And for a full list of inductees, visit the Vermont Sports Hall of Fame website. That's this week's High Five, and we'll be right back with Vermont-based Olympics reporter Peggy Shin. And welcome back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, and we are so excited to be starting the Sports Report just before the Olympic Winter Games begin in Milano Cortina, Italy. Our guest today is the perfect person to guide us through. Peggy Shin is with us, a longtime Olympic reporter who's covered 8 different Olympics. She grew up skiing herself in the Northeast Kingdom, and beyond her freelance reporting on winter sports, Peggy has written 2 books, including World Class, The Making of the U.S. Women's Cross-Country Ski Team. Peggy Shin, thank you so much for being with us on the Sports Report.
Thank you for having me, Mitch. This is a dream. Ever since I've heard you on Vermont Public in the Morning, your Sports Report, I've wanted to sit in your living room or at a bar and have a beer with you and talk sports.
Our studio audience, which is completely fake, really likes that. So thank you very much, Peggy Shin.
Maybe we can get a beer sponsor, or
yeah,
you
absolutely.
can get a beer sponsor.
It's great to have you here to talk about this. I mean, first, before we get into the Vermonters and some of the folks who have Vermont ties who are going to be competing on the biggest stage, I want to know more about your covering of the Olympics. I mean, 8 Olympic Games you covered. Do you remember the first one? How did you feel doing that initially?
My first one was 2010, Vancouver. And I think if you ask anybody who's competed in the Olympics or gone to the Olympics, their first is the favorite. You know, everything is magical. For me, I wanted to go to the Olympics as a kid. And I was going to go, I told my parents I wanted to go in alpine skiing, figure skating, or swimming. And if I couldn't do that, I would go in something easy, like track and field.
Sure, right.
But I ended up going in writing. So your dreams can come true. They just might not be, they might just take a different form.
What was it like trying to get access to some of these athletes? I mean, everybody wants a piece of their time. It can be difficult, right?
It used to be a lot easier. You know, you'd catch up with them in the off season. I'd go to Lake Placid a lot, where a lot of the winter athletes were training, and you could spend the day with them. You could watch them train. You could sit down with them. That was 2008, 2009. But really, social media has taken a big chunk of that, and athletes want to talk to their fans directly on social media, which is good.
Yeah.
But they get curated content and not more in-depth features. But no, we used to have great access to the athletes, and it was really fun to get to know them and talk to their family and their coaches and, you know, realize how they got there.
You know, as I mentioned, too, at the top, you grew up skiing in the Northeast Kingdom. You're a very good skier yourself. I have to imagine. No,
I wouldn't go that far.
You are, indeed. I do have to imagine, though, that your expertise, your knowledge of skiing, did it help you talk to some of these athletes? Did they understand you better? Were you speaking the same language in a way?
Yeah, you know, I've had to cover every Olympic sport, from taekwondo to luge. And every sport has its own language, but it's a pretty easy language to learn. I think with my expertise in skiing, yeah, I can look at the hill and I can see, I can tell what's a good run. I know what I'm looking for, but it's more, I was a bicycle racer. That was the sport that I went the farthest in. And being an athlete and trying to make the Olympic team, even though I was so mediocre that, I was the best of the worst of the worst of the best. But knowing what athletes go through emotionally, the ups and downs, I think is more important because that's more of the story than the winning and the losing or, carving a turn versus, blocking a gate. Those are just terms, but it's the emotions that athletes go through, the ups and downs, the mental challenges that I think that make the stories.
Yeah, and to compete at that level, I mean, you're among the best in the world at what you're doing here. It's really just incredible. So given that, who are some of the folks that we should be watching out for who have Vermont ties? Some names that perhaps people don't even know about, but they should be watching for.
Well, I mean, the first ones that come to mind, everybody's heard of Michaela Schifrin and Jessie Diggins. Michaela grew up, spent her formative years from like age 8 to when she graduated from Burke Mountain Academy in the East. She lived in Lebanon, New Hampshire, or around the Hanover area, and then trained at Burke. So we can kind of claim Michaela as our own, even though she claims Colorado as her home. And then Jessie Diggins grew up in Minnesota, but when she became a pro in 2011, she decided to come to Stratton Mountain, and she owns a condo at Stratton. So we can claim Jessie as well. And they're, two of the big names going into the games.
Do you expect, let me start with Jessie Diggins, do you expect her to have a shot at a medal this time around?
Jessie is a medal contender in all 6 of the Olympic women's cross-country ski races. One is the relay, so she'll have 3 other teammates, but the U.S. has been trying so hard to win a medal in the relay because it really shows the team depth. So I'm really hoping they do in that event. And then in the team sprint, she will likely be paired with Julia Kern, who is from Massachusetts, but now calls Vermont home. She has a place in Richmond and also trained at Stratton Mountain School for years. So those two paired in the team sprint, they've won medals at the past 2 world championships in both a classic team sprint and a freestyle team sprint. So they're going to be medal contenders. I'm assuming they'll get paired. I mean, you never know. The coaches decide who's going to be in these relays, the night before, 2 nights before the event.
And spoiler alert, we're going to be hearing a little bit from Julia Kern a little bit later in the show because we had a chance to speak with her, which was terrific. I want to circle back to Michaela Schifrin for a moment. In some ways, nobody has less to prove than Michaela Schifrin. She has set the record for the most first place finishes in the world, man or woman, right?
Yes.
In
she
history?
has 108 World Cup wins. The second place, the guy whose record she beat, was 86 World Cup wins. So she's 22 beyond that, which is unprecedented.
Unreal.
And her slalom, she said she's skiing the best slalom of her life right now. There have been 7 or 8 slaloms. She's won every single one but one, and that one she finished second place in. And she's a medal contender again. But we said the same thing going into Beijing. But Beijing had a lot of other variables that this Olympics don't have.
Remind us about the year for Beijing again.
The year of Beijing was 2022.
Okay, right.
And Michaela competed in 6 events and didn't come away with a medal. But going into the Beijing, we were still dealing with COVID.
Yep.
And we were in a country where you had a lot to worry about. You had to worry about not bringing your laptop, not bringing your phone. You had to get burner phones. You had to get if you were going to bring a laptop, you had to get a burner laptop. There was just a lot of extra steps that can cause anxiety. Now we're going to an Olympics where they've competed for years. Like Cortina has been a World Cup stop since I think 1987. Lindsey Vonn skied that course 65 times, I counted.
Wow.
Schifrin's probably skied it 30 times. Like they know the course, they know the snow. Like in Beijing, we had a very the wind comes right down from Siberia. It is the driest, coldest wind. I felt like I was being freeze-dried out there. And it causes the snow to be a different consistency. So they're skiing on a different surface that they've never skied on before. They don't have those conditions in North America and Europe. But now they're going to a place where they do know what the snow is like. They know what the food is like. They know the language. They know the alphabet. They know how to get on the Wi-Fi.
Right.
Simple things like that. But it starts adding up and causing anxiety, and that can just start sapping you.
Well, the reason I asked was because of what happened with Michaela Schifrin in 2022. And, does this Olympics represent for her a chance at, I don't want to say retribution, because again, she has nothing to prove. She's the best. But, I have to imagine she wants a much better finish this time around in 2026 on the Olympic stage.
I think so. She said in 2022, the Olympics happened to her, and now she wants to happen to the Olympics. So I'm wishing her all the best. Oh, the other thing is she will only be competing in her two strongest events, slalom and giant slalom, and probably the team combined as well, which is a new event at this Olympics. One teammate skis the downhill, and then a different teammate skis the slalom. And she and Breezy Johnson won a gold medal at World Championships last year in this event. And I think, we don't know who's going to be competing in the downhill yet. We're hoping Lindsey Vonn can compete, but any one of the women on the U.S. speed team could help Michaela win a gold medal. Michaela's that good in slalom. But anyway, so Michaela will be competing in fewer events. She's an athlete who really thrives on training. And when you're competing in 6 events, you don't have a lot of time to train. Well, now she's going to have a lot of time to train. And she's an introvert. And she doesn't necessarily like being in the media spotlight. She's learned how to handle it, and she handles it very well. But I think with some of the other athletes like Lindsey Vonn and Jessie Diggins taking a little bit of the heat off of her, I think that's going to help a lot as well.
I want to talk about Lindsey Vonn in a minute, but first let's talk about some more Vermonters. Ryan Cochran-Siegel is a name I'm sure who comes to mind. A lot of folks around here know him. What are his chances like this year? What's he competing in?
So he's competing in the speed races, so the downhill and the Super G, and probably the team combined as well. He finished 4th place last year in that event with another Vermonter, Ben Ritchie, but Ben unfortunately did not make the U.S. team. The men don't have a specific slalom skier on their team.
Wow.
So that's going to be kind of an interesting race. But Ryan just finished yesterday. He finished 3rd in a downhill, and he finished 2nd at Beaver Creek earlier this year. So he's coming in with some good momentum.
And what about Ben Ogden, another name that a lot of folks around this region know?
Oh, Ben, he's great. He'll be leading the men's team along with Gus Schumacher, who is from Alaska. And Ben, they're hoping to bring home the first medal for the U.S. men in 50 years. Bill Koch won a silver medal at the 1976 Olympics.
It's been that long?
It's been 50 years since the men's cross-country team won a medal. And Ben is a very good sprinter, and his teammate Gus, they just finished 3rd in a team sprint at the World Cup 2 weeks ago. And that's the first time they've ever finished on the podium in that event. But Ben, he's a great sprinter. He's a great distance skier, great personality, and he'll be representing Vermont pretty well.
Now, a few years ago, you've told me this story before, but I want you to repeat it again. Ben Ogden was introduced to the nation from being from a very strange town in New Hampshire. What is the story behind that?
So Ben is a very proud Vermonter. He grew up in Landgrove. His family has been here since his grandfather came up, over probably 100 years ago. And NBC was doing their research for his Olympic profile before the 2022 Olympics. If you go on NBCOlympics.com, you'll find a bio for every athlete. And they send a researcher out to gather that information, like what's your hometown, what's your birthplace, what's your birth date. So the researcher said, well, Ben, you were born in Vermont, right? Because he'd been talking so proudly about Vermont. And Ben said, no, embarrassingly, New Hampshire. So his Olympic bio reads, birthplace, embarrassing New Hampshire, which I think is hilarious.
And by the way, nothing against the good folks in New Hampshire. I think Ben was just trying to have a lighthearted moment there. And then,
well, he was just saying no. He was embarrassed that he's born in New Hampshire, but the NBC researcher didn't think to look at the map and realize there's no embarrassing New Hampshire. Poor New Hampshire. There's no town that's embarrassing.
Embarrassing for NBC a little bit, but wonderful story there. Who are some other Vermonters that you've got an eye on?
Paula Moltzen, we can't forget her. She was born in Minnesota, but she's a UVM NCAA champion. Yeah. And she and her husband recently bought a home in Waitsfield. And she's now a very proud Vermonter. And she's been going great guns in giant slalom and slalom. She has, I think, 9 World Cup podiums on her resume, and 6 have come in the last year. And several of them have come this year. So she's going to be a contender in both slalom and giant slalom, maybe team combined too. I don't know how many teams we get in the team combined.
Wow. Okay, so that's one name. Who else?
Jack Young. He's a young man from Jay, Vermont, and he made his first Olympic team in cross country. He was in a sprint final earlier this year in December. So it'll be an inaugural Olympics for him. And he was known as a North Country Union High School quarterback and outfielder, baseball outfielder, which I didn't know.
Yeah, he was a terrific athlete. Again, another spoiler alert. We will be hearing from Jack Young in just a moment. An incredible athlete who just was great at skiing too. But yeah, he was a star athlete in baseball, football. He's done it. He's done it all. And he was a nice young man to speak with. And we'll be hearing from him in a moment.
And then we have to bring up biathlon because it's the one winter sport the U.S. has never won a medal in. And we've got some good biathletes this year. 4 of them claim some connection to Vermont. We have Margie Freed, who's a UVM grad. And then Deidre Irwin and Sean Doherty are Vermont National Guard. They represent Vermont National Guard. I think Maxime Germain does as well.
Wow.
And then Paul Schomer is from Craftsbury Racing, Green Racing Project. So biathlon, we've got to keep an eye on them. If they're pretty strong contenders, I think, in the mixed relay where they have 2 men and 2 women. They finished 4th recently in a World Cup. And then we have a very young competitor in snowboarding, Jess Perlmutter from Killington Mountain School.
How old is she?
She's 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's going to be out there competing in the big air and all the other stuff.
Yes.
That is pretty cool. Speaking about, again, biathlete, the biathlon, U.S. has never medaled ever in that.
It's true.
I have to ask a question about, because we spoke to a woman named Chloe Levins, who's from Rutland.
Yes.
She's on the team as an alternate.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean exactly? Like, if somebody gets hurt, does that mean she takes their place, or what will she get to compete, or how does that work?
I don't know. I've been chatting with her mom. She will get to compete if somebody gets injured. Yes. I'm not quite sure how it works. If an athlete only does one race and then cannot continue competing or does not want to compete, does Chloe then have an opportunity to step in? And I'm unsure there, but I really hope she does. Chloe's great. I remember her skiing when she was 2 years old, just chasing her 3 older siblings, in her little snowsuit out there, chugging along.
Pride of Rutland. It would be awesome if she got a chance to do that. What about some other competitors, or chances for other Vermont athletes?
Well, I think our best medal chances are with Ryan Cochran-Siegel, RCS, Paula Molson, and Schifrin, Michaela Schifrin.
Of course.
In Alpine. I'd like to say we could come home with 5 medals. I'm going to put my money on 5 Olympic medals in Alpine.
I mean, that would be incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm overshooting there.
The competition is tough, let's face it.
And then in cross-country skiing, Jessie Diggins, I think she'll win another 3 medals.
Wow.
And then Ben and Gus Schumacher, 1 or 2 medals there.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. We're going to hold you to those predictions. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were about to mention somebody else.
Well, then we have in moguls, we have another woman, Olivia Giaccio, who is from Reddington, Connecticut, now lives in Steamboat. But she went to Killington Mountain School and spent some time in the Killington area, going to school with my daughter's friends and playing soccer with my daughter back in middle school. And she's a real contender in moguls. She's been on the World Cup podium a number of times in moguls. So keep your eye on that sport.
I have to circle back and ask about Lindsey Vonn, because the news came out, I guess, a few days ago, really. She was taking a practice run. It was supposed to be her last practice run before competing, and she got hurt. How badly was she hurt? What's her status?
It was actually a race.
It was
a downhill on Friday in Cron, Montana, Switzerland. And interestingly, in October, I was down in New York at a Team USA Media Summit where Lindsey spent a lot of time talking to the press. And one reporter asked her if she would, step back from any races that she thought were dangerous or didn't want to compete in for whatever reason, or if she was just committed to competing in every race she could. And at that time, she specifically called out the Crans Montana course and race, that she said she was going to be strategic at that time. And if she needed the points to maintain her start position, she would compete there. But the course, the race was notorious for weather, snow conditions, and injuries. So when I saw her in training, the training runs last week, I was kind of questioning what her thought process was. And then when she was competing, I mean, two women had gone down ahead of her and already not finished. One had a terrible crash right at the bottom. Her helmet flew off. So, I mean, she's a competitor, and it's hard to keep a competitor out of the starting gate. But it just seems like she was so close to her goal. 1 week away, just over 1 week away from her goal. And it's just heartbreaking to see that. Now,
she hurt her left knee on that run. Looked pretty bad. The comments that I saw in the press said she was thinking about, she said, I can still make it. I can still get there and compete. Do we know yet? When are we going to find out if she's actually going to compete in these Olympics?
She's holding her cards very close to the chest. She's holding a press conference either tomorrow or Wednesday in Cortina. Is it a bruise? Is it a torn ligament? Is it a broken bone? We don't know. I mean, she did ski down on that leg. She wasn't lifting it up. I hope it's a bruise. She competed in 2010 Olympics with a bad bruise on her shin, and she won gold there. So
that's amazing.
I hope it's just a bruise, but we don't know. Her team isn't talking to the press. She's not. The only thing we see, everybody else sees, is on Instagram and Facebook. So wishing her the best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you tell me, but other than Mikaela Shiffrin, she is probably the best known woman skier in the world, maybe the best known skier in the world. Is that fair to say?
I would say yes. She and Shiffrin are the best known skiers in the world. And Lindsay's, Mikaela's starting to do it, starting to cross over into, more of the mainstream. But Lindsay has always embraced that,
Sure.
with fashion, with, I think she was on Law and Order. She's really kind of broadened her personality beyond sport. And so I think more people do know of Lindsey Vonn. I'm not going to get into who's the better ski racer. I think Mikaela definitely has more records, but they compete in two different, it's like comparing apples and oranges. They compete in two different types of races.
Sure. Yeah,
Lindsay's speed, Mikaela's technical. I mean, both of them earlier in their career switched over. So, it's like comparing, Tom Brady and Peyton
and a running
Manning.
back, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
Well, they've both done so much for the sport, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible the profile for women's skiing that they have established, just the two of them. And, again, not to be ageist about it or anything, but Lindsey Vonn is 41 years old now, right? And she hadn't competed at this level in, 5 years?
Yeah, 5.5 years.
It's a remarkable story. We hope she can get back, but we'll have to wait and see. I have to ask about your attire here, Peggy. That is such a cool jacket. Did you get that at one of the Olympics games you covered? What's going on there?
This was part of the Team USA outfits that we all get before all the games. This was before the Beijing games. It's very warm in the front. It's very puffy, but the sleeves are very thin. So my sleeves were very cold.
So they ran out of material
games.
There. It looks a little bit like.
Yeah, was it run out of budget? I don't know. But luckily I had a friend on the bobsled team who helped me out and gave me a much warmer jacket to wear in addition to this. So
I know you've covered a lot of these games, as we've established. You've written about these athletes. You've spoken with them. You've established some relationships. Do you still get a little bit of a thrill or a chill during the opening ceremonies? What do the Olympics mean to you?
They mean more to me than I thought, because I'm not going to these games. And I thought, okay, well, now I get to stay home and I get to ski, and I don't have to stand in a mix zone for 3 hours and 2 minutes waiting for Lindsey Vonn to come through. And I don't have to worry about, the bus dumping me off and, in the boondocks and not picking me up. But I'm getting FOMO, and and I love the Olympics. They touch you in your soul and in your heart, and how much, these are athletes who, most of them are competing for the love of sport. I mean, very few of them are making a living at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you watch football, you watch hockey, baseball, those guys are all killing it. They're making a lot of money. And these guys, most of them, a lot of the bobsled and luge athletes, they're over waiting tables in Lake Placid in the summertime.
Amazing.
So you kind of know what sport means to them. And I think it means, I don't know, I love the Olympics.
The passion and the love for it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for being with us here. Can you stick around for the show? We're going to bring you back a little later on and talk about the Super Bowl. I know what a big football fan you are.
Okay. I was hoping to talk about one more thing with cross country and the equal distance.
Please mention it.
Do we have time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this has Vermont roots. So for the first time in Olympic history, the women and the men are going to be competing at the same distance. So in previous Olympics, the women raced 30 kilometers, the men raced 50 kilometers. Now they're both doing 50. Across the board, the distances have been equalized. And that started in Vermont. Molly Peters, who is the cross-country and track and field and cross-country running coach at St. Mike's, has been pushing for that since 2020. And the equal distance first started in the U.S., and then the International Ski Federation picked up on it, and we started getting equal distance races at the World Championships and the World Cup, and now the Olympics. Equal distance. So,
that's fantastic.
yay.
And maybe someday we'll get Nordic combined being a male and female sport as well.
Yeah. So watch Nordic combine at this Olympics, because the more viewership they get, the better chance that they can stay in the games.
Fantastic. Peggy Shin, Olympic reporter, joining us here on the Sports Report. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
We'll see you in a little bit. And we're going to come back and hear from some of the Vermont athletes with Vermont ties who are competing in this year's Olympics. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Report. Welcome back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. You know, in the lead up to this month's Winter Games in Milano Cortina, we had the chance to sit down with several Olympic athletes with ties to Vermont. And we're going to share some clips from our conversations with Chloe Levins of Rutland, an alternate on the U.S. Women's Biathlon squad, first-time Olympian Jack Young, who's from Jay, Vermont, and is part of the U.S. men's cross-country ski team, and then Julia Kern, who made the U.S. women's cross-country squad. Julia trained at Stratton Mountain School and skied for Dartmouth College. To me, this is such a physical sport, the endurance aspect of it, how much you have to put your body through, then slowing your heart rate down with the rifle shooting. What is cerebral about biathlon to you?
I think that there's a moment in biathlon that you'll watch in the games where the athletes are going to go from skiing as they approach the range and switch on their brain. You can almost see it happen. You have to dial in your breath. You have to relax your muscles. You have to deal with lactic acid pumping through your legs. And you have to do it in as fast as you can because the clock doesn't stop moving. You have to be aware enough. You can't just go mindlessly into what we call the pain cave when we ski. You have to be aware enough to hit a target the size of a golf ball 50 meters away while, you know, your heart is beating outside your chest. And that takes a little bit of mind work and visualization. And, you know, I use mantras in my training a lot. And I also think that, you know, making sure that you are, you know, aware of all the variables that can happen, but responsive to them instead of being reactive is a whole nother part of the sport.
As far as the race part goes, do you ever think like, okay, it's an endurance race, but I want to get out fast out of the gate. I want to build a lead, try to hold on to that lead, or are you more of the mind, I want to save a kick for the end?
Absolutely. There are so many different tactics that different athletes take, and it's really personal preference. you can almost see it by nation. You know, the Germans are known for just shooting the same exact way every time, whereas the Norwegians are known for being super versatile and responding to the circumstances and who's around them. So some people you might see at the games take more risk and shoot faster to go for gold and risk missing targets just to get out of the range sooner than their competitors. And it's a constant game of risk reward. And, you know, personally, I like to be very controlled in my shooting. I just am kind of a perfectionist in nature, and I like to make sure that the shot that I'm about to take is going to be a hit, and that skill set and my shooting ability has served me really well so far in the last, decade of competing internationally for U.S. Biathlon. I'm one of the strongest shooters on the team, and I think that, leaning on what is most natural to you in those high pressure moments is going to bring you the most success.
You're on the men's cross-country ski team, but as I understand it, your specialty is kind of like sprint skiing. So how does that work within that framework?
It's you get a lot less opportunities because about 2/3 of races on the World Cup are distance races, about a third of them are sprints. You get a lot more time alone with your thoughts because sometimes you race for 5 minutes and then you go home and you don't race again for a week, as opposed to distance racing. You'll sometimes be out there for 30, 45 minutes, an hour. But that being said, there's a very clear path to success on the sprint side because there's less races. One good result can guarantee you a season's worth of World Cup starts.
Yeah, what's that dynamic like? You're just starting to meet some of these guys, or maybe you've met a lot of them before. What's that experience been like, getting to know your teammates?
It's fun because I've known of all of these guys, and I really got to know all of them last year with my first full season on the not full, but almost full season on the World Cup. And it's I've idolized so many of these guys and really put them up on a pedestal. And it's really cool just to feel like I'm just friends with them now. It's just the dynamic of the relationship has changed so much over the last 2 years.
What has the support been like from, folks back in Vermont, where you're from, and really all over Vermont? You got a lot of people rooting for you.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Well, I think my favorite people to hear from are my friends in high school who I haven't talked to in a while, especially my teammates, like my football and baseball teammates in high school who I haven't talked to since we graduated. It's just fun to think about how much sport shaped our lives back then, and I'm still competing in it, and it's kind of fun to almost share that success with teammates that I've been competing with for some of them half my life, and that's a lot of fun.
This is your second time around with the Olympics, though, not your first rodeo, so to speak. You competed at the Beijing Games in 2022. Which races are you competing in this year for these Olympics?
I don't exactly know yet. Starts get named as the games go on, but we have 6 events, and I'm hoping to race anywhere from 3 to 6 events, I think, if things go my way.
Yeah, and you don't really care. You're just competing. You can't wait to compete, right? That's what I imagine you're excited about.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And of course, there's certain races that I'm really shooting for, are my priority. But any opportunity I get, I will want to take it.
Would one of those be the individual sprint freestyle? Because I know that was one of your strongest finishes previously.
Yes, the classic sprint is one of my focuses, and the other one is the team sprint if I'm named to the team. That is an event that Jesse Diggins and I have medaled in the last 2 World Championships. So I'm really excited for that event, and I think it's just also really fun to compete in and to watch. I think it's our most exciting event. I might be a little biased, but I think it's really cool. You have the team aspect of it, but you're also pushing really hard, and there's also action and sometimes crashes and chaos. So I think it has all the elements of skiing in it.
Hopefully no crashes and chaos for you, but I understand that point of it. That can be exciting for those watching at home. Yeah. Do you still feel a connection to Vermont from your time at Stratton Mountain?
I definitely do. And I actually moved up to Richmond, Vermont last summer. So I've been in the Burlington area now for a year and a half. And also going to Dartmouth, my parents had a place in Fairleigh, Vermont. So there's a lot of places in Vermont that feel like home to me now. And I would consider Vermont definitely my home. And I'm building communities all around Vermont, but it's not that big. And especially in the ski community, it's pretty small. And it just has such a special place in my heart. And I was just home for 2 weeks, and it was just a dream to be home, skiing on natural snow, seeing it be such an amazing winter. It just filled up my cup with all the good things before heading into the Olympics.
Thanks to Julia Kern and Jack Young and Chloe Levins for speaking with us. They were overseas, so gracious with their time. And stay with the Sports Rapport throughout the month of February for in-depth conversations, updates, and more featuring the Olympic athletes with ties to the Green Mountain State. Back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, and just before we get into our predictions for the Super Bowl and what folks are doing, I want to update you on what happened with the Boston Bruins. They had a big game last night in the state of Florida, an outdoor series stadium game. Now you think, how are you going to play outdoor hockey in Florida, right? Well, they set up a steel tent. They air conditioned the whole thing. They thought, okay, this will make sure the ice stays cool. Turns out it was like 38 degrees in Florida anyway. Yesterday they had this odd cold snap. Anyway, they play the game, crazy game. The Bruins build up a 5-1 lead, and then midway through the second period, a succession of penalties. Peggy and Nathaniel, one after another. 8 minutes of total time for Tampa Bay to be on the power play. Of course, they score 3 to make it a 5-4 game. They eventually tie it up, and they beat the Bruins in a shootout in overtime, a game the Bruins really should have won. Oh, and by the way, there was a goalie fight in this one. Jeremy Swayman and Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay skated out to mid-ice, and they had a little fight. Didn't last very long. Goalies are not known for fighting. I'm letting you know all of this because the Bruins have one more game before the Olympic break. They take on the Florida Panthers. They stay down in Florida. Currently, they are in the bubble for a playoff spot. I am hoping they can do it, but it would have been nice to get that 2 points last night instead of the 1. Okay, I'm done with my hockey stuff now. Let's talk about, the Super Bowl. Big game coming up, New England Patriots against the Seattle Seahawks next Sunday. The game will be played in Santa Clara, California. Before we get to predictions, what are you folks doing for the Super Bowl? Peggy, what are you gonna do?
I'm going to be in the backwoods of Quebec, backcountry skiing with Vermont public reporter Nina Keck. I will not have Wi-Fi. I will not have cell service.
And you and Nina are just going to be wondering why you did that when you could have been sitting home watching the Super Bowl eating chips and dip.
Well, worse, my husband, who loves the Patriots, agreed to come on the trip back in September before he realized it was Super Bowl weekend and before any of us knew the Patriots would be in it. So,
and he can't back out now,
he
right?
Can't back out now.
All right, I got to ask you a prediction. Obviously, I can tell you're not the biggest football fan. That's okay, but you got to predict for me who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I follow the Patriots enough to know that I want them to win, but if I were going to put my money on a team, it would not be on the Patriots. It would be on the Seahawks.
So you're picking the Seahawks.
Yeah, but my heart is with the Patriots.
I was going to give you the boo button, but I'm not going to do that. Nathaniel Wilson, what do we got here? What are you doing for the Super Bowl?
Well, I have the NBA schedule picked up for that day. And, the Super Bowl is like the biggest TV event every year. And so they're not competing, but I do see that my Miami Heat are playing the Washington Wizards at 2 p.m. that afternoon. And so I know where I'll be at 2 p.m. on the couch watching the Miami Heat, but I don't know. I probably won't watch the Super Bowl. I was talking about this with my girlfriend. She was like, are we going to tune in for the halftime show at least? And I was like, it's on YouTube the next day. So
Wow.
I probably won't be watching. Yeah.
I'm not getting a lot of love for football here, but
Yeah,
you do have to give me a
unfortunately.
prediction. Who's going to win the game?
Okay, so like I said, I don't follow football, but I hear you guys talking about it. I follow basketball pretty closely, and just football's so dominant, it comes up. And so my prediction is that the Seahawks will win the game 24-6. And I'm saying this, you guys all talk about how the Patriots offense is crap, apparently, and the Seahawks defense is really good. Drake May was a finalist for MVP, right? But he doesn't even throw 100 yards in the game. So
Wow.
they're going to struggle to score, right? The Seahawks isn't that the thing where the Seahawks defense is like historically good or
They're
something?
very good. They're fourth-ranked defense in the NFL. I'm going to switch to the control room where some folks know a little more about football because I'm getting a little angry here about the anti-Patriot sentiment here. Mike Dunn in the control room there. Were you with us, Mike? Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Mitch.
So what are you doing for the Super Bowl?
Well, my prediction is that the Seahawks are going to win. They've just been a little bit too hot lately, so I think that they're going to keep their streak going. And for the Super Bowl, we have a party that I go to that our fantasy football league hosts, and I'm actually obligated to show up and wear the anti-trophy that I had the pleasure of winning this year because I came in last place, and Kyle can show it for you. This is the shirt of shame.
Oh, no. What do we got here? Can we see it? Oh, it's over there. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. Mike, that looks like the puffy pirate shirt from Seinfeld.
It's pretty comfortable, though. It doesn't look it, but it's very comfortable. But it's also noisy. It's got little jingle bells on it. Yeah. You have to make 3 public appearances over the course of the year.
Does this count as
a lot of fun?
Does this count as one of your public appearances? With the shirt?
You know what? Thank you for saying that. Yes, this probably will.
This is what happens, folks, when you lose a fantasy football league. Let's go to Kyle Ambusk, who we should start out by saying, Kyle, a team that's not in the Super Bowl this year would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Is that right?
Unfortunately true, Mitch. Yes, go Birds, but they had a disappointing exit from the playoffs this year. That's true.
Kyle, what are you doing for the Super Bowl?
I don't have an exciting party to go to and wearing an embarrassing shirt like Mike, but maybe I'll get invited to that party so I can see his public shaming. But yeah, I'll probably just be at home making some dips, some buffalo chicken dips, kind of a classic Super Bowl go-to. And it'll be interesting. I don't necessarily have a team to pull for here, but if I were to pick one, I think it's going to be likely a defensive battle. There's 2 good defensive teams, but I have a feeling that Kenneth Walker for the Seahawks and Jackson Smith and Jigba are going to be hard to keep up with. So I think Seattle will pull it out by 6 points.
By 6. Okay, what about Dave Rice in the control room as well? Dave, what are you doing for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, Mitch, unlike Mike and Kyle, I probably won't be watching it, but I will take the advantage of the snack food, and I'm rooting for Bad Bunny, the halftime show. I think Bad Bunny's going to take it.
Well, you pretty much predicted what's happening at my household because my daughter thinks that the Super Bowl is basically the Wonder Bread sandwich around the meat that is the Bad Bunny halftime show. That, for her, is the biggest thing that's going on there. What else you got going on, Nathaniel?
Yeah, Mitch, I just wanted to draw some attention to our YouTube chat, which has been popping off a little bit during our show today, which is great to say. Great to see. We'll start. I see some VJ Singh is saying that the Seahawks are who he's rooting for in the Super Bowl. And our COO, Brendan Kinney, he predicts that the Seahawks will win 27-17.
Okay, Brendan's a Giants fan, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, any other we got another Giants fan in here who says they got no skin in the game. We've got some love for Peggy in the chat that I would like to share.
Oh, I would love to share that. Yes, please.
Somebody says, love Peggy's enthusiasm and expertise. It's great to learn about all of the athletes with Vermont ties who will be competing this month. And then VJ, our CEO, says, watching these Olympics with a deeper appreciation thanks to Peggy. And so if you have more Super Bowl predictions or anything else, get those in the chat. We got a few minutes left here. Maybe we can get yours on the show.
Yeah, it'd be nice to hear from somebody who's picking the Patriots in this game. It's going to be left up to me to do, it looks like.
Don't forget the Olympics are on during the Super Bowl. It'll be the day of the women's downhill.
Is that happening at the same time?
At the same time.
That's what
Wow.
I'll be watching then,
Yes.
Peggy.
The
It's
Super Bowl's
second
got some
day.
competition this year.
It does.
Okay, that's good to know. Nobody asked me, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Look, my heart tells me, my head tells me that the Seattle Seahawks are the better team. They just are. They've got the fourth-ranked defense in the NFL. Yes, the Patriots did beat the Denver Broncos, who had the second-ranked defense in the NFL, but I think that they were playing the elements as well as the Broncos that day. That was a crazy snowstorm in the fourth quarter that happened there. And the Texans had a great defense too, but the Patriots beat them. My heart tells me that Drake May, who is up, Nathaniel, as you said, for potential MVP this year, has not played well to this point. He is, in fact, arguably the 3 playoff games were his worst games of the year. He rushed for more yards than he threw, I think, in at least one of them, which tells me that Drake May is going to have his breakout game on the biggest stage of the year, in the biggest game of the year. So I predict that the Patriots are going to win the game by 4 points. It's going to happen on a deep ball because that's Drake May's specialty, throwing a perfect pinpoint pass. A lot of yards right into the receiver's hands, just out of the reach of the defender. Late in the game, fourth quarter, it's going to be a long ball beauty to Booty. That would be Keyshawn Booty. And the Patriots pull it out by 4 points, and you heard it here first. Probably not, but you never know.
Yeah, the Patriots will win this game, and then every other for the rest of time. Football fans everywhere will rejoice, especially here in New England. We've got one person in the chat who says there is at least one Hardy from New Hampshire who thinks the Patriots will win.
All right.
And then we have a comment that says, I might go to the movies. The theater should be almost empty. I can't stand the hype around the Super Bowl and football in general.
I mean, to be fair, I have, and I will confess this, in years past where I didn't care about the two teams playing, I have gone to the movies on that day.
It's not a bad idea.
It's a really smart idea because you have the place all to yourself, pretty much. So let us know what film you're going to see instead of watching the Super Bowl, and we'll put it in the chat. Thank you so much for tuning into the Sports Report. If you missed any of today's show, you can find it on our YouTube channel. You can also catch the show on Vermont Public Radio on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. It's also available wherever you get your podcasts. Find out more about the Sports Report, vermontpublic.org/sports. And if you want to get in touch with us, just send an email to sports@vermontpublic.org. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, your host for this program that is all about the world of sports in Vermont and beyond. Thanks so much for watching.